Imagine 9 experienced hikers, young, strong, prepared, disappearing in the heart of Soviet Russia, deep in the Ural Mountains, under conditions they were trained to survive. Now imagine their campsite found shredded from within, their belongings abandoned, and their bodies scattered across the frozen landscape. Half naked, injured, mutilated. This isn't a horror movie. This happened. And it remains one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in modern history. Welcome to the Dyatlov Pass incident. Chapter 1. Who were the hikers? The story begins not with fear, but with ambition. In January 1959, a bright, focused young man named Igor Dyatlov, just 23 years old, assembled a team of 9 hikers, 7 men and 2 women, for what should have been the adventure of a lifetime. They weren't tourists. They were experienced mountaineers. Nearly all were students or recent graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, known for producing Russia's best and brightest minds. They had trained for this, climbed tougher routes, endured harsher winters, earned the certifications. This wasn't reckless youth. It was a calculated expedition to Ural Mountain, nestled deep within the snow-choked Ural Mountains near the Siberian border. The group included Zenaida Kolmogorova, strong-willed and athletic Rustem Slobodin, a quiet, intellectual Ludmila Dubinina, known for her discipline Semyon Zolotaryov, a double-hour Saita veteran and instructor joining to boost his credentials. And then there was Yuri Yudin, who fell ill shortly after they reached the last village of Vijay on January 25th. He was forced to turn back. He didn't know it at the time, but that illness would save his life. The others continued, laughing, snapping photos, journaling their progress as they ascended the remote trails. They were chasing a grade 3 hiking certification, the highest difficulty rating. Otterton wasn't supposed to be deadly, just demanding. They camped, they climbed. They planned to return with stories and credentials. Instead, they walked into eternal silence and into one of the darkest and most baffling mysteries in modern history. Chapter 2. Radio silence. Before they left, the group had made a simple, reassuring promise. Once they reached Ural Mountain, they would send a telegram to the sports club at their university, no later than February 12th. That message never came. At first, no one panicked. Delays in remote expeditions were common. Maybe they got stuck in snow. Maybe they decided to rest an extra day. But as the days ticked by, unease grew. By February 16th, families began to worry. By February 18th, classmates and instructors were raising alarms. And by February 20th, fear turned to action. A search and rescue mission was launched, starting with university volunteers, many of whom had hiking experience themselves. But the terrain was vast, the weather brutal, and there was no sign of the group. The Soviet military soon joined the effort, dispatching aircraft, helicopters, and dog teams. The Ural Mountains were blanketed in snow, the temperature dropping to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Searchers combed the area looking for footprints, tents, anything. For days, nothing. Then, on February 26th, they saw something. A collapsed tent, half buried in snow, slashed open from the inside. And that was just the beginning. Because what the searchers found next was the stuff of nightmares. Chapter 3. The tent, cut from the inside. On the morning of February 26th, searchers finally stumbled upon something solid. Half buried in deep snow on the eastern slope of Kolatsiakl, they found the missing hiker's tent. It was collapsed, partially torn down. Snow crusted its edges like ice had tried to erase it from memory. But the most disturbing detail? The tent had been slashed open from the inside, not unzipped. Not torn by wind or wildlife, it was cut, by hand, from within. Inside the tent, rescuers found something even more unsettling. The hikers' belongings perfectly intact. Boots lined up by the entrance, heavy jackets neatly folded, food supplies untouched, maps, diaries, cameras, all abandoned mid-use, as if they had suddenly bolted in the middle of the night. Then came the footprints. They trailed away from the tent in different directions, barely visible but unmistakably human. And here's the part that made everyone's blood run cold. Some prints showed bare feet, others just socks or thin slippers, no shoes, no snow boots, no proper gear for minus 30 degrees Celsius weather. Even stranger, there were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of anyone else's tracks, no wild animal prints, no attacker. Just 9 people rushing out of their only shelter into the deadly cold. Unarmed, underprepared, unprotected. Why would anyone do that? What could terrify trained hikers enough to make them run, barefoot into a frozen forest at night? No one knew, and that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Chapter 4. The bodies within days. The first bodies were found under the snow near the edge of the forest. 2 men lying beside a fire wearing only underwear. Nearby, Dyatlov's body, face frozen in a grimace, fists clenched with skin torn from his hands. Zina Kolmogorova, face down in the snow, her body twisted. All had no external wounds suggesting trauma, yet all had died from hypothermia. But the next discovery changed everything. Chapter 5. Injuries that don't add up. 2 months later, 4 more hikers were found deeper in the forest, buried under several feet of snow, and their injuries were horrific. Ludmila Dubanina, ribs shattered, tongue missing. Semyon Zolotaryov, skull crushed with force comparable to a car crash, but no external bruises. One had eye sockets empty, another had missing facial tissue. Some wore clothes from the others' bodies, as if they died at different times. The official explanation? A compelling natural force. But nothing about the scene looked natural. Chapter 6. Theories and cover-ups. For decades, the Soviet government kept a tight lid on the details. Even the location was renamed Dyatlov Pass in honor of the fallen leader. So what really happened? Here are the major theories. 1. Avalanche. Some claim an avalanche drove them out in panic, but no signs of an avalanche were ever found. 2. Military testing. Could they have stumbled into a secret weapons test? Locals reported strange orange orbs in the sky that night. Radiation was found on some of the clothing. 3. Infrasound-induced panic. A scientific theory suggests low-frequency wind patterns may have triggered intense fear and disorientation. 4. Paranormal activity. Others say it was something unnatural, UFOs, a yeti, a dimensional rift. Far-fetched? Maybe, but the details don't line up with any simple cause. Chapter 7. The final questions. Why did 9 skilled hikers suddenly abandon their only shelter? Why did they flee barefoot into certain death? Why were some crushed without trauma, like the damage happened inside their bodies? And why, after all these years, are we still left with no solid answers? What do you think happened at Dyatlov Pass? Drop your theory in the comments, logical or outlandish. We want to hear it. Subscribe for more real-life mysteries, paranormal history, and unexplained deaths, and share this with your most skeptical friend. Because even science can't explain everything, and some mountains mice keep their secrets buried in snow.